Hey there, hi there, ho there, my name is Thomas and welcome to the Second Star Channel, the only channel on YouTube that combines the wonders of Disney with the artistic styles of jazz music. It's been almost 2 years since I've made this channel, and yet I've only ever made one Peter Pan video. So, let's talk some Peter Pan lore and Walt Disney's Peter Pan trivia. Without further ado, here we go. Oddly enough, the story of Peter Pan was originally a novel, and then a play, before it became a full-length feature film. And Walt Disney's version is not even the first one. Written by James Matthew Barrie, Peter Pan was first published in 1904 in the novel Peter Pan in Kensington Garden. However, this was not Peter Pan's first appearance. Peter Pan appeared before his own story. The character was first seen in another one of J.M. Barrie's novels, The Little White Bird. This book was written in 1902, 2 years before the Peter Pan stage play. The character of Peter Pan is based on J.M. Barrie's older brother, David, who died in an ice skating accident the day before his 14th birthday. In the minds of Barrie and his mother, David was in fact a boy who would never grow up. The story of Peter Pan is not as friendly as the Disney version. In J.M. Barrie's original story, Peter is constantly looking for victims to cure his boredom. They mainly consist of pirates, but that's not the limit. When Lost Boys showed signs of growing up, Peter would dispose of them. After all, growing up was against his rules. Sometimes Peter even switches sides and begins fighting and slaughtering his own to keep things interesting. Originally, Peter Pan could fly without the help of fairy dust. Unfortunately, that led children to believe that if they tried enough, they could take to the skies. After several injury reports, J.M. Barrie added fairy dust as a necessity for flying. There have been a few debates on how old Peter Pan actually is. The oldest he ever appears to be is 13 years old, similar to David, who passed away before turning 14. However, the novel states that he still has all of his baby teeth. And according to The Little White Bird, he is only 7 days old when his adventures begin. Captain James Hook is not the actual name of the story's antagonist. Barrie writes in the book that to reveal who he really was would even at this date set the country in a blaze. What we do know is that he attended Eton College in England and is said to be one of the most gentlemanly pirates to ever sail the seas. Captain Hook is such a prominent character in Peter Pan that it's strange to think that he was not always in the story. The original villain of the story was Peter Pan himself. His role was later expanded due to children's fascination with pirates. Contrary to popular belief, Neverland does not actually stop the process of aging. Peter leads a crew of boys who refuse to grow up. However, it is only Peter that manages to achieve this goal. Stated in the original novel, the boys do not stop aging altogether, but simply age slower. Eventually, they all show signs of growing up. Now, the famous conflict between Captain Hook and the ticking crocodile was inspired by Captain Ahab and Moby Dick. Mr. Smee, Captain Hook's loyal sidekick, is one of the 2 pirates to survive the final battle between Peter and the pirates. According to J.M. Barrie, after the story concludes, Smee wanders the world selling souvenirs from the Neverland and claims to anyone who will listen that he was the only man who James Hook feared. Now, there is an official sequel to Peter Pan titled Peter Pan in Scarlet, although it was not written by J.M. Barrie and was published nearly a century after the original. Author Geraldine McGoffrin was authorized by Great Ormond Street Hospital to write and publish her own story that continued the story of the boy who wouldn't grow up. Now, more on Great Ormond Street Hospital in a little bit, but let's talk about the play adaptation quickly. The first person to ever take on the role of Peter Pan was English actress Nina Boucicault. At age 37, she led audiences to Neverland for the first time in 1904. Since then, it has become a tradition for a female to play the part of the titular character. Walt Disney's Peter Pan was released on February 5th, 1953, and it is the 14th Disney animated film. In the original script, Nana was supposed to fly to Neverland with the children. However, after seeing how the Lost Boys treat the other animals on the island, wearing them as an outfit, I'm glad she stayed behind. The designs of both Wendy and Peter Pan were based heavily on their voice actors, Bobby Driscoll and Catherine Beaumont. Wendy Darling was voiced by Catherine Beaumont, who also voiced Alice in Alice in Wonderland, which came out 2 years before, on July 26, 1951. there is a live action version of the Disney film. And no, I'm not referring to the Universal Studios 2003 version or the 2015 ABC Network's version. No, for the animators to illustrate natural movement, the Walt Disney Studio filmed the actors as they moved like the characters. Walt Disney's Peter Pan was not the first, but the second production to depict Tinker Bell with a human figure. Prior to the silent film Peter Pan, released in 1924, Tinker Bell was only represented by a spot of light and jingling bells. Faced with the challenge of bringing her to the animated world, animator Mark Davis had actress Margaret Carey, who voiced one of the mermaids, come into the studio to be a reference model. Captain Hook and George Darling are voiced by the same actor, Hans Conroy. This was a tradition of the stage play that would be recreated in the 2003 live-action version, with Lucius Malfoy playing both George Darling and Captain Hook. Pieces of aluminum were used to make Tinker Bell's signature sound. And yes, this is contrary to popular belief, the sounds that Tinker Bell made were not created by bells or chimes, but the filmmakers cut up pieces of aluminum and strung them together. The melody Second Star to the Right was originally written for Alice in Wonderland. It was supposed to be a song called Beyond the Laughing Sky. So, I guess in an alternate universe, this channel would be called Laughing Sky. Peter Pan was intended to be Disney's second animated film, but wasn't given permission to do the story until 4 years later. The studio began story development and character designs in the late 30s, but by that point, there was a little thing called the Second World War, which delayed the film even further. It would become the 14th animated film by the Walt Disney Company, after Alice in Wonderland and before Lady and the Tramp. Now let's talk about rights. Disney does not own the full rights to Peter Pan. Author J.M. Barrie famously left the rights to Peter Pan to the Great Ormond Street Hospital when he died. The hospital made a deal with Disney in 1939, giving them the exclusive animation rights. However, the hospital doesn't receive income from the sales of DVDs or toys because those were things in the 1939 contract. But before we start grabbing our torches and pitchforks, according to the hospital's website, Disney has been very supportive nonetheless. In fact, since 2008, when Disney partnered with Great Ormond Street Hospital Children's Charity, they have raised more than £10 million, or $14.5 million, towards the hospital's vital development program and continue to support the hospital and charity. Now, Walt Disney's desire to make Peter Pan the movie was the fact that he once starred as Peter Pan in a play. This came from Walt's own childhood. After seeing a stage production of the show, he got the chance to play Peter Pan in a school play. He recalled his brother Roy using a rope to hoist him up to the stage to make it look like he was flying. Two of the film's animators animated themselves into the movie. Both Ward Kimball and Ollie Johnston made cameos on the film. Kimball appears as the Lost Boy in the bear costume, while Johnston based Smee's appearance on his own likeness. Even though Captain Hook is killed off in most adaptations of the story, Walt Disney insisted on him being kept alive in the cartoon. And no, it wasn't because it was a kids' movie. Disney predicted that the audience would become too attached to the character that they had re-envisioned and wouldn't want to see him meet his end. As it later turned out, he was right. Audiences loved and still love Disney's Captain Hook. Now, Walt's brother Roy Disney was vocally against the film. The elder Disney found the $3 million budget hard to swallow and was probably livid when costs soared to $4 million. He and Walt ended up in a big fight over the whole affair. It all worked out in the end. Peter Pan grossed more than $40 million upon its original release and another $46.6 million when it was re-released in the 1980s. Now, it's said that Walt Disney didn't actually care much for the finished product. He believed that the Peter Pan he had created was cold and unlikable. Despite this, Disney believed author J.M. Barrie would have approved of his Pan. In a 1952 article called My Plans for Peter Pan, Disney wrote, "I believe that if Barrie were alive today, he would be only too happy to write the adventures of Peter and Wendy directly for the screen, realizing that here at last was a chance to perform his miracles exactly as he wanted them. That here was a medium which could do full justice to the quality of his showmanship." There you have it, lost folks. Hopefully you enjoyed these unknown facts on the Peter Pan novels and Walt Disney's 1953 film. My community question for this video is, which Disney movie should I cover in the next installment for the Treble Trivia series? Let me know in the comments section below. Best comment will be featured in the next video. Like this video if you learned something new. Second Star is on a Sunday, Wednesday schedule, so subscribe and hit that notification bell. And as always, my name is Thomas. Make sure to keep those happy little thoughts, and I will see you in the next video.